Ireland has arrived. We are richer now than any of us thought possible 10 years ago. In fact, we are better off than 99% of humanity. Now think about that for a second. We are a success. And Jesus, are we celebrating? We have more money in our back pockets than almost anybody else in Europe, and we are spending it like no tomorrow. This year alone, we will spend 75 billion euro on consumption. That's almost 20,000 euros for every man, woman and child in the whole country. We're buying stuff we don't need with money we don't actually have. For example, in the short time it takes you to watch this series, we'll have borrowed and spent 121 million euros of other people's cash. Oh, Lottie. Oh. You'd imagine now that we'd be just chilling out and slowing down and kicking back. But not at all. We are accelerating like never before. We're all living at full speed. We are the full-on nation. In this series, I'm going to try to explain how we got here by using history to look back a bit. We're also going to try and project forward to see what might be around the corner and how that could impact on all of us. Now, if you're sitting there thinking the next hour is all going to be about heavy economics, don't worry your head, because economics is only about people, and that means you.
Young people of Ireland, I love you.
21st century Ireland is in a frenzy. We are boozing, eating, shopping, shagging, spending and taking more drugs than almost any other nation. We are Europe's hedonists and the most decadent Irish generation ever, who play hard and work even harder. We are one of the most productive workforces in the world, putting in more hours per week than any other European country. Our complexion is changing. We are absorbing more immigrants faster than any other developed country, and our priorities have changed too. For a nation that thinks we value our children, we spend 1.6 billion euros on stout every year. That's 400 million euros more than the entire state budget on primary education. And the strange thing is, the dearer booze gets, the more alcohol we drink. Here in Ireland, we are turning the laws of economics on their heads, and we don't stop there. We are the second highest users of ecstasy in the world. We eat more chips than the British, more chocolate than the Belgians, and for a nation that used to claim to be the best readers in Europe, we now spend more in the bookies than we do on newspapers. The full-on nation is overhyped, overspent and overdrawn. It might not be the promised land, but if you think about it, it's a hell of a lot better than where we all came from.
Agricultural unrest, frequent strikes, industrial pollution,
cheap foreign sneers,
immigrants still leaving us every year in their thousands,
selfishness, violence and dishonesty.
We hadn't one large industry of our own.
It is a tragedy of Greek dimensions.
When I was growing up in Ireland, it felt as if the country was cordoned off. Economically, we were the sick men of Europe, and we were happy to be victims. Hibernian Ireland was an isolated outpost. Although things were obviously beginning to open up, Ireland was characterised by endless perverted anomalies. In the early 70s, we still had the highest percentage of unmarried virgins in the Western world, side by side with the largest families. We stood up at school to salute a supposed egalitarian republic, yet we were governed by a strict, tight-ass class system. And behind the pompous economic rhetoric of independence, the reality was a lamentable shambles.
Where did we go wrong? Did we just blunder from sump to boom and from boom to slump? And more important still, for the future, are there any lessons to be learned from the past?
Every argument, whether it was economic, moral, political or social, seemed to pit the Hibernian Catholic Irish view against the foreign cosmopolitan one, which was rarely portrayed as anything other than threatening. And the official line was, the best way to protect us all was to ban everything that came from outside. My memories of growing up back in the 70s were an ideal afternoon out with a packet of Tato, a bottle of Cadet and a Macaroon bar in the back of the car. But we knew that there was something else out there. There was something better, because British kids on HTV used to beam into our living rooms every afternoon, smiling, chomping on delights like opal fruits, wagon wheels, curly whirlies. But we here had to make do with gammy Macaroon bars made by patriotic Irish hands up the road in Drumcondra. We had a local football team. We call them the Big Lads. They went to play in England once a year. Every Easter, they would smuggle back the three commodities that were banned in Ireland: Oran mags, condoms, and believe it or not, curly whirlies. Now, at a stretch, I can understand a moral or religious objection to the likes of porn mags or condoms. But the fatwa against the curly whirly, now that's a really perplexing one. Unless, of course, you understand that the dominant philosophy of the state at the time was that everything outside was bad and everything inside was good. So the state not only wanted to protect us from things that might corrupt our morals or even dilate our pupils or even hijack our sperm, it wanted to protect us from everything outside. So if you think about it, for an economic evangelist, banning filthy, lewd, foreign curly whirlies was actually a way of preserving the good, wholesome Irish Macaroon bar. If you're looking for the year when all this changed, it was 1979. The Rats were at number 1 all summer with I Don't Like Mondays. Chippy Brady's left foot won the FA Cup for Arsenal. The government abandoned our nuclear future after the Carnsore Festival. And Charlie Haughey outfoxed them all to become the leader of Fianna Fáil.
Charles Haughey, 34, George Colley, 38.
However, the most important thing, though most of us didn't twig it at the time, was that we joined the European monetary system, the forerunner to the euro. The fatwa on the humble curly whirly was lifted in 1979. And this was also another huge event in modern Irish history because it was the year of the Pope's visit. Now, 1 in 3 of us turned up to see the Pope. And this should have been the high point of Hibernian Catholic Ireland. But instead, it probably served to underline just how thin the facade actually was. The Church and Hibernian Ireland had peaked. Now, a friend of my older sister lost her virginity in that summer. It was obviously a momentous occasion for her, and probably insignificant for you until you realise where she lost it. She lost it in a tent at the Pope's Youth Mass in Ballybrit.
I want to welcome you all to Galway this morning, and as you can see, the mist is already rising. It will be gone.
So as that great Lothario himself, Bishop Eamon Casey, was cheerleading, and an elderly clerical gentleman from Poland was preaching about chastity,
You share with us the fullness of our love, and give us new courage.
some of the young people of Ireland were fornicating right under his nose. And to make the scandal on our road even worse, she lost it to a scally from Sallynoggin, creating class war, therefore, as well as moral outrage. It obviously was the end of an era.